Hey guys, and welcome to Knit Crit. In today's video, we're going to go over how to make this really cute, slouchy, bulky beanie. It's super easy. It's a one skein wonder. So this is Arabella by Yarn Bee. I got this over at Hobby Lobby. It's a really soft, luxurious yarn, and it makes it so nice for this hat pattern. This is a super fall-y color yarn. I actually don't think that this Arabella has another colorway available at my Hobby Lobby, at least. I don't know if anybody else has an Arabella brand Yarn Bee, whatever Hobby Lobby this is, over in their Hobby Lobby. Let me know if there's any other colorways. I'd be curious. But I'm pretty excited with how this pattern looks. It's super fall shades, and it's a really pretty tone. It's alright. Let's get started. So for this project, you will need just a basic light, bulky weight yarn. I got this, I know this sounds like a double negative, but it's not. Yarn Bee Arabella. I noticed that this yarn, it claims to be a bulky, and it is, but it also seems like it's a little bit lighter, so I would probably find... Weights are really confusing, and a lot of the times when you'll get two different yarns, and they'll say they're both the same weight, but they are you wouldn't be able to work with them together, is what I'm getting at. So this bulky might not be the same as a bulky that you might get in another yarn brand. This over here, I just went off of what it said for what it requires for a knitting needle. It says for a US size 9. So I'm using some 16 inch in length size 9 knitting needles. I'm using just some normal metal knitting needles. And I'm using this really cute faux fur Pom Pom. I found all of these over at Joann's. They had a ton of really cute colors. They have this really pretty faux pink and this like tannish color and a nice large gray one. I love how it's got like the black tips, so it makes it kind of almost look variegated and real. It just adds to it, and I like it. So I'm not going to use those three colors. I like this maroonish purpley color because it looks like it goes with this nice purpley color tone in this very fall inspired yarn. This is, again, Arabella by Yarn Bee. It's from Hobby Lobby. These are from Joann's. You can probably get a lot of this online as well. You're also probably going to need a darning needle at some point because you're going to want to sew in your ends. So to start this project, you're going to leave a very long tail. This is about 3 feet long. I like leaving long tails. I know it's probably excessive and I'm wasting yarn, but I'm always paranoid that when I make these projects and I start out with my yarn, I'm gonna have to undo everything because I didn't leave a long enough tail for my start. So I'm going to leave an insanely long tail just to make sure that I've got enough. I'm gonna kind of let that chill over here, and I'm gonna start with my working yarn over here and my tail yarn on this side facing me. If you pull it towards me, that's my tail. And I'm going to take and make a slip knot. I'm going to take my tail, put it over my working yarn, like so, and kind of have my fingers here to show. I'm going to pick up my tail and pull it through, like so. I'm then going to place my slip knot onto my needle. We're going to be doing a, working with our tail cast on. I don't remember the exact term for it, but I like making my first row as I cast on because I find that it is easier to get into these stitches for my second row. So the way that I do that is I'm going to take my working yarn and place it between my two fingers here and underneath my middle finger. I'm then going to take my tail, kind of grip it with my fingers here, put my thumb underneath it, and kind of work with that. I'm going to take my needle and go underneath my thumb and pick up my working yarn, like so. So again, let's go underneath my thumb with what I'm gripping here and picking up my tail. We're going to do this 72 times because we are casting on 72 stitches onto this needle. So I'm at 4 now. Your slip knot kind of counts as a first stitch, I find. And we're going to keep going under and over and counting as we go. I just lost track, so I'm going to have to count. 2, 4, 6, 8. I've already made 8. This is 9. 10, under, 11, 12, 13, 71, 72. So the big thing with this hat is that you're doing this in increments of 4 because that's what your ribbing is along the base of it. So if you want this hat to be bigger or you would like this hat to be smaller, do it in increments of 4. Every 4 stitches is about an inch to the hat. So we're going to then, and you'll notice that my tail got real short. I actually didn't waste that much yarn at all. It was probably close to 2.5 feet of what I had for my yarn there. And look at how little of the tail is left. It's about a foot of a tail. So you honestly probably could get away with 1.5 to 2 feet of a tail, and it would probably work just the same. I kind of just do rough estimates with that. So I'm going to double check and make sure that this is 72. This yarn is really soft. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 5, 30, 5, 40, 5, 50, 5, 60, 5, 72. Perfect. I always like to double check and double count because once you start going in the round, it's harder to fix your stitches afterwards. So what we're going to end up doing is a very simple pattern. We're going to knit 2, purl 2, all the way around until you have your rim about the length that you want. When working in the round, we're going to have our yarn facing us now. So we're not just going to let it just chill out over here. We're going to have our needle tips facing upward. And we're going to have and make sure that all of our cast on is going in the same direction. Nothing's just twisted up. So if your yarn was, say, like this, and now there's a knot, that's not all going to go straight. So we're going to make sure as we go down, I like to kind of just make sure this way by pushing it around and making sure that all of my bottom ridge is going the same way. We're going to have our yarn tips facing upward. We're going to have our tail still over here. Our tail's no longer useful until we get, until we need to tie it in with our darning needle. We're going to pick up our yarn, and I do a continental style. So my style is a little bit different when it comes to knitting than other people. Mine is continental, so I carry with my left hand and I pick with my right hand. A lot of people will do this thing where they keep the yarn. I'm not even good at doing just typical American style. I just can't do it. I don't know it's how my brain is wired or what, but I cannot do the typical American style where you hold where your yarn and you pick up and you pluck and you do all. It's a big old headache, and I find that this is faster anyway. I just almost lost my tail in there and I would have had to do everything over again. Everything's facing the right way. So now we're going to knit 2 and purl 2. The way that we knit 2 is we're going to place our needle into the very first stitch here. I'm holding my yarn the same as I was earlier, and I'm plucking and picking up and going like so, and pulling that off the needle, off this needle and onto this one, off lefty and onto righty. So we're gonna go again, 2, and make sure all of our things are going the right way, picking up, plucking, and taking it off. Next, we're gonna pull our yarn to the front, go through from back to front, which is different than going from front to back, which is what we did for our knit stitch. We're gonna go from back into the front and purl 2 and pluck off, into from back to front, wrap, pluck off. We're going to continue knitting 2 and purling 2 until we get to the end of the row where I'm going to add a slip marker, but you don't have to add a slip marker, I just think that they're easier. We're going to knit 2, purl 2, so knit 2, 1, 2, purl 2. Everything is going to be in increments of 4. So if you want to have 80 stitches, you can have 80 stitches. If you want to have 68 or 64 stitches because you've got a smaller head to put this on, then you can also do that. Each 4 stitches is going to be about an inch in width. You can tell from here that's about an inch, roughly. Again, check your tension. If you're finding that your 4 stitches are bigger or longer, adjust for that. 2, purl 2, all the way around. And I'm going to continue doing that until I get to the very last 4 stitches, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like to put a stitch marker down and how I'm going to keep doing that for roughly 1.5 to 2 inches, depending on how wide you want your brim to be. I'm going to make mine about 1.5 to 2 inches, depending on how I think it looks visually, and I'll show you and tell you exactly the measurement length for this specific hat, and with this specific yarn, and with my specific tensioning. A lot of these things can change, and a lot of these things are going to be, that's what makes knitting so individualized, is a lot of these things can change, and a lot of these things are specific to you as a person. My knitting is not going to look necessarily the same as your knitting, or my mom's knitting, or anyone's really. They can be all different, so just make sure that your tension is being kept the same. Essentially, if that makes sense. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, so now we're on the last 4, so I'm going to do my knit 2, and then purl 2, and then you'll notice that your tail kind of extends right behind your last stitch. That's fine. You can use your tail as a stitch marker if you would like. I don't like doing that. So I'm going to take a stitch marker, you can also use one of these, and I'm going to put it there. I'm going to continue going around with knitting 2 and purling 2. All the way around. Knit 2, purl 2. And what I like to do at this point is, I've got a decent enough length right here. I'm going to take my tail, I'm going to kind of wind it up like so. I'm going to kind of wind it with its center here. And I'm going to take one of these little, I don't know, they're like a clip. These are a specific type of stitch marker. You don't have to do this. You can just sew on your tail if you'd like. But I like to stab this through the center of it while it's also attached to the hat without splitting it, of course. And then I cap it closed, so that way I don't have this giant tail just kind of following me around. It's just sitting there and not dragging, because that bothers me. So I'm going to continue for about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, depending on how long you want your brim to be, with knitting 2, purling 2. And I'll show you what this looks like as soon as the brim is done, and I'll show you what I do afterwards. Be right back. So I've done this same repetition of knitting 2, purling 2 for 10 rounds, and it's about 2 inches long. And from here on out, I'm going to now, this is my marker, I'm going to purl my last 2. And for the rest of this pattern, all you have to worry about is knitting. What I like about the continental version of knitting is that it is wicked quick when you get the hang of it. So for this, I'm going to just knit across for basically 6 inches, or until the piece runs 8 inches up. And then I'll show you how I do closing. But essentially all you do is you just keep knitting all the way across. Even across all your purl ridges, you just knit right across them. And what I like about this yarn is that it's variegated. This pattern is very fun when you can do a variegated yarn with it. I like that it's got the variegation, but there's still like a main cream color to it. I really like that. So we're just going to keep knitting until we're 8 inches to the top of it, and then I'll show you how I close up. Wicked quick, wicked easy, and I can show you some interesting decreasing techniques when it comes to this pattern. And then I'll show you how I attach the pom-pom on top of that too, so it's a little fun. I like this fall kind of ombre, however you say that word, effect that this yarn has. I'll be right back as soon as I knit for 8 inches. You just keep going across all the way in the round, going past your stitch marker, and just continue knitting. Be right back. Alright, so I have finished my 8 inches total. So like my hand is about 6 inches, so it's got about 2 inches on top of that. I finished my 8 inches total, counting the rim, and this has been just driving me crazy, so I'm going to show you how I sew that in. I'm just taking it out now. I think it's just, it throws my weight off of this thing, and it's a bulky weight, so I've never really done a bulky weight that often, like too much. So I'm going to take this, and I like to feed it through the back of the first stitch, that nice little V there, and it pulls it so that it's nice and kind of invisible for the most part. I then try to take it through the back of the stitch right here. That way you don't even see it. There's no way you can tell that that's there. And then I take my tail and I work it through the back ribbing stitches on the inside of the hat. That way you can't see them. I go back and forth through and then back through the other way there. I kind of just go back and forth all the way up. Then on my last one going this way, I go over. You're going to have a little bit of a string that looks there, but then I cross over and I go down the other side halfway just to make sure that it won't come out. Sometimes if I'm feeling like it, I can take a little bit of a hot glue and stick it right on the end of one of these. I don't feel like I need to do that most of the time, but I don't do it until the very end. So I'm just going to stop here, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to pull it. That way it's just hidden. I don't see it. That's how I hide my yarn tails, and I'm going to do the same thing basically with all my hats like that. And so this is actually a really thick hat. This bulky yarn is bulky. And I haven't gotten to my first skein yet. I attached it with a magical knot, which I showed in a previous video. And I haven't gotten to my magical knot yet. So this hat is mostly done with one of these skeins. The skein is 105 yards. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of this beanie. But I think you might be able to get away with one skein. At the very least, you can get 2 hats out of 3 of these max. So that's pretty much what I'm doing there. Alright, so because this hat is a repetition of 8, I'm going to, so this is 72 stitches across, and I've got 2 stitches left of this row. I'm keeping my stitch marker right here, and I am going to be doing 9 repetitions of 8 decreases. Or, excuse me, 8 stitch wide. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. It's kind of hard to describe. So I'll show a nice little chart, which will pop up here-ish, this region. Alright, I'm slipping over my stitch marker. And the way that I do this is I'm going to be doing 6 knits, and then I'm going to decrease 2 stitches by knitting 2 together. You can either do a slip slip knit, or you can just knit 2 together. I think this would just be super easy. This pom-pom's going to really abscond and hide any of your decrease rows anyway, so it's not like you need a super invisible decrease. It's all depending on what you want to do. I'm just going to do something that's basic and easy, so we're going to knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're going to take our left needle, starting from the second hook from your needle, we're going to decrease 2 by going through both of those stitches, wrapping and knitting through like it's one stitch, but you're putting it through both, and pulling that off. I'm going to show you that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go through both, and decrease, slipping that off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go through both, try not to split your yarn, pretty much just, standard fare for me, going through and pulling off. We're going to do that all the way around this piece. And when we get back, we're then going to knit 5, decrease. The round after that, knit 4, decrease, until we get down to a minimal amount of stitches. Usually I try to get down to 10 or less, and then I pull it through the final stitches. So again, 1 for this round, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together, and pull off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together, pull off. Just because this is a super heavy beanie. This is going to be great for winter, honestly. And I love how the colors for this turned out. It's going to be so pretty. And I think that this matches it well enough in the center that it'll look really pretty on the edge and bring it all together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together, and there should be only one more repetition. I missed it. One more repetition towards the end of this row. This should be 8 stitches. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Basically what I was getting at with the whole 9 repetitions thing is that you are doing 9 repeats of the knit 6, knit 2 together, because it was 72 stitches. 72 divided by 8 is 9, and that's essentially what I'm doing. And now we've set kind of a place marker for where our decreases are going to be, and we're going to want our decrease to go over that. Every round we decrease 1. It's essentially like our amigurumi pieces when we do our decreasing or our increasing, and you're adding or subtracting 1 like how you would with the amigurumi, but this time you're just decreasing and it's knitting instead. So 1, wait, no, that's 2. I did 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease. And now we are on our round 2 for our decrease row. This is not just round 2, but to make this easy, because I'm not going to count all of the rounds I did, and your rounds are going to be different for decreasing rounds. This is now round 2. We are going to knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Essentially, we decreased our 6 down to 5, and then we're going to go down to 4, 3, 2, 1, so on and so forth. So this is 5, knit 2 together. And you'll notice that your hat starts kind of swirling. These decreases start turning into a kind of star almost looking thing, except with, 9 edges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, nope, 5, there we go, knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2 together. It's super easy once you get the hang of it. I'm going to try to make sure that I put a chart up, probably already did for this video, and a written description for this pattern. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm also going to put a printable PDF on my Ravelry. That was a decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knitting continental is very quick. This hat, when I'm knitting continentally, and given how bulky this yarn is and how quickly it knits up, it took me about an hour and a half to make this hat. Not even, so I'm pretty excited. And now I knit 2 together, and I split my yarn. I went right through the 2 of them. Knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see where you knit 2 together previously because you've got look, you can see it essentially. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knit 2 together. Don't do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knit 2 together, like so. Slip your marker. We are now going to knit 4 because we decreased from having 5 stitches between each decrease to now 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can start seeing where our decreases are really going. There. Knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to need to go onto double pointed needles soon. And the thing with double pointed is I like to go a size down from what my actual needles are when I go to double pointed, because I find that it helps with your tensioning when it comes to decreasing. You tend to try to get, just everybody tends to get a little bit looser with their stitches when they work on double pointed. It's just kind of how it is. So I mitigate that by going down a needle size. So instead of a size 9, I'm going to have size 8 double pointed. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. So now I'm on my 4th round of decreasing? Yes, 4th. Because 1, 2, 3, this is 4th. I'm going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then decrease. This is probably going to be my last round that I can do on my circulars. So 1, 2, 3, because I'm probably going to get to the point where it's too small. 1, 2, 3. And I've learned that you don't really want to try to continue knitting on your circulars when you don't have enough stitches, because it just starts looking weird and you mess up your work, and nobody wants that if you're going to put all this work into a hat. Decrease. The more you decrease, the quicker these rounds go, just because you have less. Now we're going to do 1, 2, and I'm going to switch over to needles, actually, double pointeds. Alright, so I have my size number 8s here, and I'm going to use these because I find that my tensioning looks better with it. You're going to have to figure out where your starting round is and just kind of keep track of things that way, because I'm not going to be able to keep on my stitch marker on my double pointeds. I just don't usually need to. I'll stick those in there actually until I get them on. 2, 3, and so I'm going to be using 3 different double pointed needles with 1 working double pointed, and that's because I've got 9 decreases along each row, and I wanted to have it evenly split. I'm pretty happy with the fact that it's convenient like that. I'm going to take that and pull it down a little bit so that I can see it. I'm going to knit 1, 2, and decrease, and I'm going to do this 3 times for this one needle. 1, 2, and decrease. 1, 2, and decrease. So now I'm going to let that kind of go into the center of that double pointed. I'm going to go on to my next double pointed. So I'm going to let that kind of chill out over here, and then I'm going to start working with my other double pointed right here. So 1, I'm going to try to pull it so that it doesn't get this weird jog between my double pointeds. I just pull my tension a little bit, and I find that that solves it. Decrease. 1, 2, decrease. 1, 2, and decrease. We're going to put that towards the center because that's 3 repetitions there. I'm going to take my last one, and this should be my last situation here. And I'm almost off my needles. It's a little kind of crazy here. I'm going to love this green tone against this maroon. It's going to be so pretty. 1, 2. Don't mind the clanking. 2, decrease. 1, 2. Decrease. 1, 2. And decrease. You wind up doing a variation of 72 stitches, so you wind up doing 60 stitches. You kind of just have to do the math on what it's divisible by is kind of what I go off of. So if you get 60, I would probably do a decrease set of 10. So I'd start with knitting 8 and then decreasing and kind of the similar, anything between, that's a repetition of 8, 10, 12, something like that. And then I would go off of decreasing that way, if that makes any sense. It's kind of how I figure things. So this next round is, I believe, our second from last, where we're going to knit 1 and decrease, knit 1 and decrease, knit 1 and decrease. Next, we're going to keep doing that all the way around. Knit 1. This yarn's starting to smell funny. I don't know if it's because of the second skein or what. 1, decrease, 1, decrease. I have such a hard time with decreasing. It's so much harder on the hands, even with bulky yarn. I feel like I'm going to get really close to the end of this skein here. I'm going to figure out where it actually ends, and I probably can get one of these done with 1 skein. Now that I said that, I'm going to jinx myself, but still. 1, decrease, 1, decrease. And now we're going to, that was the third time, that was our third needle. So we're going to take and just decrease every single stitch, and that'll be our last round. When you get down to decreasing every single stitch, that's how you can kind of tell that that's going to be your last round. Decrease. I'm going to be down to 9 stitches. Going from 18 down to 9. I love this green tone, and I think I have enough of just this one skein. So I might be able to make 3 hats out of this. That would be super exciting and pretty. I might do it. I don't know. These are really pretty. I know that a lot of people might not like these colors together, but I like these colors together. And this is our last 3 stitches to decrease. So 1, my cat just jumped up really high. 2, and I'm gracefully at that, and 3. So now I have enough. You can make one of these hats with just 1 skein of this if your tensioning is right and similar to mine. Okay, so my video cut out, and I had shown how we got down to the last 9 stitches after decreasing every 2 stitches together, and the way that I end up closing up my hat is I take my tail, I cut a nice really long tail, and I feed it through the center stitches of our between our final 9 stitches. So in each increment there, I just go in between and I pull it through, and I do that for all of them. I've already done it for all of these twice, so I like to do this a couple times. I go around quite a few times, making sure that I'm going through the centers like so. And this will be the last one that I go through. And then all I do afterwards is I take my double point needles off, I pull it so that it's nice and tight, and now it's a completely closed off hat top. So I tend to get a little frustrated by adding pom-poms. I usually go through and I go through the center of this and I add it and kind of knot it onto the top, but no matter what I do, it always ends up with me having a hat that kind of just flails because of the string. There's not like a really good way to attach it. I'm super frustrated by them, and there's not a really good like center that I can add it to. So what I wind up doing is I go through a couple times and make sure that this string has it somewhat attached. And what I do then is I usually take a little bit of hot glue and I put it on the base around this, and then I stick it to my hat and I put a book on it on top really quickly, and that usually makes it so that you can't see the glue. Let me go grab my other hat and I can show you. And again, you don't have to do this, but I find that you can't see it, and there's no way to have this thing just dangle and fall and die. I just hot glue it, and you can't really even tell. You can't feel it because it's a slouchy beanie, and that's just what I do with my hats. This one I made last season, and it's still not coming off, and I love that it's just on there, and I don't have to worry about it coming off and drooping off, and it's a bothersome thing for me. It irks me, so I like to go around and stitch this in with the tail a couple times. I'll show you how I do that. And then I take a hot glue gun to it, and then I just put it in a circle and I plop it into the center. So that's completely hidden when you have hot glue just sticking on it. So here's my tail. I don't need it to be this long. I made it way too long. But again, I'd rather have it be too long than not long enough. I went through my loop right there, pulled that through, and now I'm going to go through the opposite side. So I have it on this side. I'm now going to go through this side, pull through my center, and now it's kind of attached, and then I go back through the opposite corner where it wasn't, another corner where I haven't had the tail go through yet, and I pull that. I go through the loop again up here to pull it down, and then I go opposite of that. That way I've got it down 4 times. And then I just kind of keep it on there. Like I do that again twice. So I'm going to go through this side here from the inside, and then I'm going to go through the center from the opposite side. It's kind of hard to show this. And then I go through the opposite of that side, making sure that I hit each point that I can. I'm going to go into this part because I don't think I've gotten through that part. I just want to make sure that each part of my center is gone through, I guess, for lack of a better word. Eek. There we go. So now we're going to go through there. I've gone through about 8 times. We're going to go like this onto the base, just through a random part of the stitch. And I'm going to, see this loop? I'm going to go through it before I pull it all the way through. That way it will be knotted. And then I just kind of feed it through the back loops. So I go through, this is a good part right here, where I go through here, and I go through here, and I just try to hide my tail through the pearls ridges. Go through here. Wait, where are you? There you are. There it is. Pull through that, and then I go through back the opposite way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now that's hidden, so you're not going to see that. Cut my tail. This might not be the best way, but this is how I do it. This is hidden. You could just keep it like that, but that really bothers me, so I'm going to turn on my hot glue gun, put a dollop right there, and then I'm going to stick it right in the center. That way it is nice and attached, essentially. And you could possibly also take this and pull it through the center. That's an idea. I'll be right back. So I actually just took my crochet hook and I pulled the string, the elastic, through the center. I'm going to hot glue it, kind of attaching it to the inside as well. Let's just make a little hot glue blob then. Hot glue blob, and put it towards the center a little bit. And then I'm also going to do it on the opposite side. That way this sucker is going to be on here. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. And I'll be right back after I hot glue it, and I'll show you what it looks like after I hot glue it so you can see where it was essentially. Alright, be right back. Alright, so I did a thing, and I don't know how well it went. So this is not a video tutorial on how to attach these pom-poms well. I did, and I didn't have to actually put glue on the top like I did on my other one. I put the, like I said with my crochet hook, I pulled it through, and I glopped it, and I made it look hideous on the inside. But that's on the inside. No one looks at the insides of hats. It's fine. And it's a slouchy beanie, so it's not like you can feel it on your head. And I'm making a lot of excuses for this hat, but it's fine. I'm going to keep my hat out with this part out, the inside out for the entire night so that any kind of glue will, you know, dry and it won't adhere and do weird things. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It actually looks like it's really stuck on there, and that ain't coming off. So that's exciting. And I love how this came out. I love how this pom-pom looks with this yarn. It's super pretty. I might actually do a second hat and have this pom-pom. I don't know how I feel about this color pom-pom. This pom-pom needs a love. I don't think I like any of these other. This might go well with it. Actually, the gray might go well too. But that's what I've done. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And that's pretty much all there is to this hat pattern. If you like this video, hit like, do the subscribe, do all the fun things. We have a Patreon where you can get all kinds of tutorials, free patterns, all kinds of stuff like that that you can't get on my channel. So if you want to help support us, you can go on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/knit. Don't know how I got that username. No one else had claimed it yet, so I'm pretty happy about that. We have a giveaway going on because we've reached 10,000 subscribers. Go ahead and go to my previous video, which might link somewhere, probably in the description as well. It's really all there is to this hat pattern. It's super cute, and I love how these turned out. Alright, until next time, guys. Bye!